Good morning. I am just getting started. As you can see, there's nothing even pulled up yet. How is everybody doing today? My three beautiful people. Try and be fair with the news that I take in. Jesus Christ,
industrialized
CNN. With the news that I take in. Jesus
G7
Christ,
industrialized
CNN.
countries. It consists
CNN
of
is always
Canada,
so
France,
inflammatory
Germany,
and just
Italy, Japan, the UK, and of course
yeah.
the US. Well, they are meeting here just outside of Paris against
I
the
wasn't
backdrop,
on
of
yesterday,
course, of these
and
hostilities
for
in
good
the Middle
reason,
East and those
I haven't been
ongoing
feeling too
Iranian
well.
attacks on oil and gas infrastructure
Plus,
across
I've
the
got
Gulf.
a
We know
line
has
in my life
effectively
coming,
blocked
and
now
I'm
the
not
Straits of Hormuz
at
in the face
all
of its
ready
war
for
with
it.
the US and
But,
Israel, affecting the world's
that's
global
nobody's problem
energy
but my own.
supplies,
But
and that is now starting to
I
cause
want to
some
say
serious knock-on
I
effects
have
for the
another
global. Starting to
I
cause
want to
some
say
serious knock-on
I
effects
have
for the
another
global
family
economy.
member,
We are hearing
who
about
turned on me
fuel rationing now in place
over
in a number of
politics.
countries, particularly Southeast Asia. Now, US
You know,
Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he will
I've
be
always
attending
had
day
family
2
that I
of this
disagreed
meeting
with
tomorrow. We're being
when it
told
comes
that
to
those other
politics, and it's
G7
never
countries will
been
be looking to gain a little
an
bit
issue
greater
like
clarity
it
on
is
where things
today.
stand right now. Fury and also the state
Makes me
of
sad.
those
It really
negotiations.
makes,
A 5-day ultimatum
whatever
issued by
happened to
President Trump for Tehran
whatever
to come
happened
to the negotiating table. Ukraine
family
also
bonds.
on the
They're
agenda,
paper
as you
thin
might
these
expect.
days.
We're being briefed here by the Europeans that they
It
will be
really
looking to
hurts
try
me.
and ensure Secretary
Really.
maintains pressure on Moscow amid those ongoing
That's
attacks.
nobody's problem.
Discussions
right?
also underway around global
right?
strategic reserves of
Well,
oil
these family
and
members
gas. Now, we're
that
hearing
I've
here in
lost
France that they
to
are looking to
absolute
maybe release
stupidity.
more of their strategic reserves in
They
order to try and help
are,
countries absorb the
how
shocks
can
of
I
these price
frame
rises.
this?
We're
They
starting to
are
hear
bleeding heart liberal. And you know, we should be able to say there's nothing wrong with that, right? We should be able to say, agree to disagree, and we should be able to maintain our family bonds. Like, what the fuck is going on with people? It really makes me sad. It really. When was the last time that you saw any Democrat, like these morning shows or late night shows? When's the last time you saw them politely and authentically interview anyone from the right? Same thing. It always degrades into name calling and the recitation of all the news media points. These are the same people that refuse to watch any other news source other than their propaganda networks that stroke their egos. It's like echo chambers. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but this is why I'll have Newsmax pulled up on one screen and CNN on the other. I take it all in. Would be nice if there was some authenticity brought back into the media circle. I mean circus. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's crazy, you got. Do you know what I mean? Yesterday, I know of me making some chili out of a can. Canned chili. Canned Wendy's chili, right? It was a lot better than you might think. Of course, I had doctored it up a little.
He truthed minutes ago, calling Iranian negotiators, quote, strange, saying they are, quote, begging the U.S. to make a deal. The president saying Iranians have zero chance of a comeback, and yet, quote, publicly state that they are only looking at our proposal. The president saying they better get serious soon before it is too late, because once that happens, there is no turning back and it won't be pretty. I'm going to start with you here, Nazi. What's your reaction?
Nazi
This just was put out on Truth Social moments ago.
Their side has been raising their stakes and their brinkmanship. This is part and parcel of the Iranian strength, while they, in fact, they're hurting. And President Trump has had the constant messaging of strength. It's peace through strength. But, you know, we are kind of not used to it because it's a new language in diplomacy and conducting war. But he's been on this. You have to give up your nuclear weapons or else.
The thing is that many people don't understand how Iran is actually structured. Can you talk about the dynamics between that structure? There's one side, the clerics, and the other side, the Revolutionary Guard. And can you talk about how, through President Trump's leadership, instill some type of ongoing relationship?
The higher the price of oil, and I think, you know, you have diesel topping $7 a gallon in California. Obviously, California's the energy is much more expensive because of the policies that they run, but that cost gets moved on to individuals. And so what I use to track inflation is a company called Trueflation. They have ticked up to almost 2% increase, is going to affect all Americans, especially those at the bottom, and unfortunately is going to negate a lot of the benefits that we got from no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and reduced taxes on Social Security. So the sooner this is over, the better it is for the economy, but hopefully that end is near.
You know, Mitch, I feel kind of healthy nowadays. Why? Because watching the market is like getting a EKG test. It keeps going up and down, up and down. But you know what? The copay is the realized losses. So, you know, from your perspective, I know when you talk about markets and the economy is very broad. Do you see any black swans? Do you see any issues that's really not being talked about, but people should actually be aware of?
Well, look, yeah, I do. I see a couple of things on the horizon about the private credit markets imploding, and that's been a long time coming. And you know, that's $1 trillion market, and that's a major, can cause major liquidity problems in the marketplace. I think stocks have been fundamentally overpriced with valuations for quite a while. The stock market's not Main Street. If you look at the bond market, that's telling us an entirely different story. And those guys are supposedly the smartest guys in the room. And you've got the 10-year yields on the bond, which is the benchmark metric for pricing all of the mortgage market products and other consumer loans. So 4.40, you can go in and buy that like a stock. You're not holding it for 10 years. If you buy it at 4.40 and interest rates go lower, you make money. If you look at the other markets, the stock markets, the Dow is down about close to 4%, and same thing with the S&P, and the Nasdaq's down 6% for the year. So you've got to measure everything. We're seeing a lot of complacency, and I don't think risk is being managed very well across the board. I think people are being too complacent with what's going on. Oil's ticked up about 5% today. And of course, the mainstream media and Trump derangement syndrome plays a big role in that, because most of the networks are only talking about the price of Brent crude, which really has nothing to do with the United States. We base our feedstock for gasoline prices on West Texas Intermediate oil, which is trading at a $13 discount per barrel to Brent crude. So, I mean, that's a bit of relief, and we should get it right a bit as far as what we're going to talk about and how it's going to impact the economy. Supply chain disruption is another thing nobody's talking about, John.
Exactly. Watch WTI, not Brent.
Yeah, that's such an important point, because I think many people are conflating that with crude. But whether the conflict in Iran ends soon or not, EPA Secretary Lee Zeldin says his agency will be taking these actions. Let's watch.
EPA is issuing a temporary emergency fuel waiver to allow nationwide sales of E15, gasoline blended with 15% ethanol, and to remove all federal impediments to selling E10, gasoline blended with 10% ethanol across the country.
This is a very important step here, Mike. To Mitch's point, we have been seeing a lot of deregulation in the market thanks to President Trump. Joe Biden put in so much regulation, but now we're undoing a lot of that harm. Where do we go from here with respect to oil prices?
Yeah, so again, even though the U.S. lives and dies on the WTI, not the Brent, there is a high degree of correlation. And if Brent goes to 140 or 150, WTI is going to move up with it, even though there's been no material disruption to the supply in the U.S. You just have a high degree of correlation. And maybe that could be attributed to foreign buyers trying to buy our oil.
All right. I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with the internet today. I think it's probably me. So I do apologize if your stream crashed. I think I just fixed it. I'm still going to go have me a smoke. Enjoy Bloomberg. I'll be back.
Into talks, right? You've seen that from when he parks aircraft carriers in specific areas, submarines, you name it, around the world, and this is what he does. This is obviously a much larger escalation with that, with the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit and the 82nd Airborne being on their way. But I mean, those talks, the real question is who it's going to, right? And I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we're looking at is, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. He's the one who denies having any talks, but then says that Iran is reviewing the ceasefire plan. Almost all other media, most all other messaging has come from state-sponsored Iranian media. It's not coming from some specific center of gravity supreme leader that can provide that overarching, message for the country itself. So it makes it difficult in this time.
Then what do you make of this Axios story, Wayne, that the president might be attempting to end it in a way that would include one last and large final show of force?
Yeah, I still, when I talk about the amount of risk that comes with putting boots on the ground, I still stick with that. Putting boots on the ground is one of the things that could at least put at risk some of President Trump's legacy, because at that point in time, you're allowing people to start looking back to 2003 Operation Iraqi Freedom. And nobody wants to have that long protracted war, so I think that's a fear that has to be addressed politically. But I do think that some level of decisive escalation option sets could potentially be there. Massive last phase strike campaigns, large scale coordinated air campaign to hit remaining targets of missile stockpiles, launchers. Think about like a 30 or 40% uptick, similar to maybe something that happened earlier on in the first 6 days of the conflicts. But really, or even violent destruction of Natanz and Fordo. I think I've actually talked with you about this before as well, is, if it's really about uranium enrichment, that those are the areas where that is actually taking place. And if that is something where, okay, we've already done it with Operation Midnight Hammer when that took place, but now if it was a true just blanketing of those areas to reach those areas deep within the mountain that we did not hit last time.
Wayne, thank you so much for joining this morning. That's retired Army Colonel Wayne Sanders of Bloomberg Intelligence. Let's shift gears now to tech news. Shares of computer memory, as I pointed out earlier, in storage makers, they're slumping. Google said yesterday its new turbo quant technology can limit the amount of memory required to run large language models by a factor of 6. Bloomberg Tech's Caroline Hyde joins us for more. Caroline, I feel like everything I've been reading has kind of been pouring cold water on this, saying like it doesn't make that much of a difference, but still for a second day running, these stocks are taking a hit.
Can I take a wild bet? You maybe heard Jevons paradox a couple of times.
I have indeed heard that.
It's like DeepSeek all over you, Citigroup, JP Morgan, saying, look, if you can do more with less, we just do more. It just means we're going to use these models even more. It just means that the amount of AI accelerators will continue to expand, and actually SK Hynix, Samsung, Micron will continue to see significant demand for their chips. The bottleneck has been the anxiety, and maybe we get a bit of profit taking. So I do think that's notable. Also, when you say it's new, look, Google's been publicizing what TurboQuant can do this week on X. It was actually last year that they first publicized about it. So you've been in the know, and if you've been really in the weeds on these stocks, then you perhaps would have understood the fact that we could do 6 times as much with certain memory going forward. But look, a lot of retail names, a lot of others have got into what have been ultimately momentum trades. I mean, Micron's up 300% last year. You've got some of these Asian names up 700%. No wonder there's a bit of maybe a bit of profit taking.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much of this is just about these things have run up massively? The amount of times that I've talked about Jevons paradox in the past year that I never thought I would. So elsewhere, I mean, Google related, Meta and Google found liable in this social media addiction case. The amount that they're paying, I mean, it's peanuts for them, right? Yeah. Meta must pay $4.2 million. Google owes $1.8 million. I mean, that's truly nothing for them. So are there wider implications? Could this be more damaging for them down the road?
Could it be a tobacco-like moment is what people are trying to worry about. Look, the stock market would say no, and actually you saw the shares trade a little bit higher yesterday, even after the findings. But this is going to be knock after knock, headline after headline. Are these companies now going to take each and every case as it comes? A wall of thousands of claims are going to come from individuals, from schools, from states. And yes, as Matthew Schettenheld, who works for us over at Bloomberg Law, has said, and time again, this is probably the best they had in terms of resiliency of court case. So Kaylee GM, this is a 20-year-old woman in LA, has managed to persuade 10 jurors out of 12 that, yes, her own mental health crisis was down to an addiction of platforms, of social media platforms. Not the content she was served, but the way in which it was served. TikTok, Snap, they settled already before it went to trial. Google, Meta took it head on, and they have lost. But now the question is, do they all band together? Do they try and settle it all in one go, or do they take just the headline risk of being associated with social media addiction time and time again? Look, Google has come out fighting, to talk of that name, saying they're going to appeal and stop making them out to be a social media company even in itself. They think YouTube is a streaming company. But Meta with Instagram says they're still looking at their legal options more broadly, looking to appeal. But this is the question academics and many out there are wondering, do we start to see this moment of contention where Bloomberg has its own documentary where it's about Can't Look Away, about how many parents have come forward, how Australia's banned it for 16s and under, how Asia is doing the same, Europe's considering it, the state of California might stop the young using social media. What does it mean for the business model? What does it mean for advertising?
And you just spent the past 2 days down in Washington, D.C. talking to tech leaders. I know a lot of it was about defense tech in this moment in Iran, but I'm wondering what the sense is among regulators, among Washington, D.C., if there is some pushback beyond just the court cases that these big tech giants might find themselves in.
It's the one thing that maybe Congress can rally around at the moment. And in bipartisan nature, you've got a Democrat and at the moment you've got a Republican coming together. They've had policy on the docket. They've been looking to get people to rally behind this since 2022. But of course, lobbying helps, changing of those in the administration, changing of the way in which big tech is considered by this particular administration. But we are starting to see a reprisal of certain bills being put forward that could start to restrain the use of social media for the young, bring out some warnings, because this is ultimately what it came down to. There was negligence argued in the development, in the organization and the operation of their platforms, but also in lack of warnings. Now, these companies have put out warnings. They have changed many things about their business model. They could be forced to do more.
Caroline, thanks so much for joining. Looking forward to Bloomberg Tech at 11 a.m. Eastern. Bloomberg Tech's Caroline Hyde. And by the way, our own original investigation, Can't Look Away, the case against social media, it is available and watchable on all of your favorite Bloomberg platforms. Elsewhere, Jefferies shares, they're slightly down this morning, only down 1/3%. They posted a first quarter result that missed estimates. It reported a record 54% surge in investment banking revenue, but also was overshadowed by losses on credit bets. Let's bring in Bloomberg finance reporter Catherine Doherty. And Catherine, we talked to you about these results before. It's something that you had been warning about. Just how big of an overshadow did the credit losses? Did MFS, First Brands, what kind of mar was that on Jefferies?
That's right. So those two names that you're just mentioning, only a $17 million write-down, which in the grand scheme of things is not dragging down the entire operation that for the first quarter posted some of their best numbers in equity trading and the core investment banking, especially pointing to strength in advisory and underwriting. But outside of that, these credit headlines that we've been posting and following, the company has been very public about their potential exposure. This write-down is what they're actually, it's what's going and hitting their top line numbers. And then they also had some unrelated outside of credit. There was a $36 million write-down tied to a sale of a telecom company that is just unwinding from something that they had already, again, publicly said that they were going to, but I think that was the unexpected number and clearly a much higher number than the 17 million write-down from the credit bets. So there's a lot of noise that is going on here, and that's what really analysts are pointing out, is that overall the strength in investment banking and in equity trading particularly is being overshadowed by these write-downs.
And everyone seems to be nervy, jumpy, whatever you want to say about credit anyway, so maybe that doesn't help. Catherine, you and the team have also been reporting on what a great year last year was, and that's maybe no surprise, translated into very good bonuses for Wall Street.
That's right. Yes, it was a record year, 2025. And what does that mean for not just the industry, but for the city of New York? This is a city that is benefiting from the rise in bonus pools, in just overall salaries, which posted their strongest performance last year. And that's despite the tensions that already were bubbling up and have continued this year. Clearly, I think the most noteworthy takeaway from this report, this is a report that comes from DiNapoli each year. He's pointing to more skepticism ahead. He says, however, we are seeing slower job growth and geopolitical conflicts, which have global repercussions that pose extraordinary risks for short and long-term outlook on the financial sector and for broader economic markets. So it's an interesting dichotomy here. You have, on the one hand, ending 2025 on such a high note, but he's pointing to a lot of skepticism of what's ahead. And bankers ultimately entered 2026 with a windfall. They had their best trading year, and M&A was a rebound that had been long projected and finally started to come through. The big question mark when we start hearing from the banks in April, and when they're going to be reporting their numbers following Jefferies, is does that momentum continue? We expect trading to continue because of how high volatility and volumes have been, especially with equity trading. But M&A is the big question mark. The start of the year started up pretty strong, but now with a lot of the uncertainty and the war breaking out a few weeks ago, we could start to see some pullback from that. And what that does to the overall numbers remains to be seen.
As Paul Taubman said on Bloomberg Deals, maybe it's time to put away the pom-poms. Catherine, thank you very much for joining. Bloomberg finance reporter Catherine Doherty. And by the way, she mentioned the New York comptroller, Tom DiNapoli. He's going to be on the close, 4 p.m. New York time. A quick check on your markets this morning, 15 minutes or so until your trading day. Stocks are down this morning. It's all being led by the price of oil, fears of escalation as Trump says that Iran better get serious soon before it's too late. We still are on track, though, for a weekly gain. It would be our first weekly gain since the war broke out. 10-year yields, those are higher by 3.5 basis points, 436.79. Coming up on the show, a private credit fund managed by Ares posts a monthly loss in February. We're going to discuss the latest private credit concerns. That's up next here on Open Interest.
At 9:30 a.m., the market tells you what it's really thinking.
We beat the drum to the opening bell.
With deep analysis of the forces driving the price action.
Focusing investors on what really matters.
Where the money flows, which markets are changing.
Conversations with players shaping the narrative.
Innovative growth companies gravitate to NASDAQ.
It's not just like, let's buy the Mag 7 or AI.
That's a really compelling story.
This is where your trading day begins.
And this is Open Interest.
Only on Bloomberg.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
And we're back with another season of The Deal.
With athletes and entrepreneurs who are changing the game on and off the field. Jerry Jones.
Some good-looking trophies.
1 and 1 is 3 in sports, not 2. And it's because that 3 is imagination. That 3 is putting yourself in a way, having yourself hit the home run.
Erica Ayers-Badon.
I'm a high-energy board member. I'm very passionate. I have a lot of opinions.
Robin Arzón.
I want to light fires in people's lives, and that is still one of my core mandates for all of my businesses.
Justin Tuck.
I tell all of my friends that play in leagues now, make these relationships now while you're hot. Don't wait till you're like your 12th year in and you're just hanging on.
Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it.
Get your fixed income fix. Watch Bloomberg Real Yield around the world right here on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to the opening trade.
Watch Bloomberg Tech.
This is the Asia trade.
This is Wall Street Week. Welcome to Balance of Power.
You're watching Bloomberg Deals.
Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend. This is Bloomberg Television.
Now to high interest, a look at what's making headlines around the world. The Iran war is jolting the global economy just as it was stabilizing. The OECD now sees U.S. inflation hitting 4.2% this year. That's up very sharply from earlier forecasts. Oil disruptions driving prices higher. The group warns that energy shocks pose significant downside risks to global growth. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Fannie Mae may soon accept crypto-backed mortgages for the first time. The product would let home buyers pledge crypto holdings instead of selling assets for a cash down payment. It's not the first crypto mortgage offering, but Fannie Mae's involvement could bring these products further into the mainstream. And former Goldman CEO Lloyd Blankfein warning that private markets are piling up hinder. He says unsold assets may be overvalued and one shock could spark widespread markdowns. He spoke with Bloomberg's Francine Lacqua.
If you haven't had a crisis, it means you haven't had a reckoning. You accumulate tinder on the floor of the forest, and eventually a spark will come. The longer between intervals where there's a spark that sets it on fire, the more that accumulates. So at some point, there needs to be a forcing function or a reckoning.
Let's get more on those credit concerns with Bruce Douglas. He leads Bloomberg's leverage finance coverage. Bruce, there's a story this morning that Ares posted its steepest lossly month on record. But we should note in February that loss was under 0.7%. So can you put that in context for us? What does it mean for the fund to lose but less than 1%?
Yeah, I mean, it's a $23 billion fund, so it's a sizable fund, and it is its worst monthly loss on record. This obviously reflects losses in the public markets, where we saw steep sell-offs in the leveraged loan market, where obviously there's a lot of investment in the software companies that are also big borrowers in the private credit space. And it's notable that Ares is not alone in posting a loss in February. A Blackstone fund also saw its worst February in 3 years that month. So it is reflective of kind of wider unease in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone from Apollo who is essentially like, of course these things are going to be down in February. If the leveraged loan market is down, we're going to mark our assets appropriately. But Bruce, I wonder if this leads to a bigger fear. The whole adage of sell what you can and not what you want to. If some of these funds are gated, if you can't get out more 5%, are we going to, or have you started to see stress on more public parts of the credit market as investors try to get out of some of their exposure as they want to bring in more liquidity?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already seeing some of that stress. I mean, the leveraged loan indexes on both sides of the Atlantic have marked significant declines since the start of the year. As I say, one of the big reasons for that is this kind of fear of AI disruption and how that will impact the software as a service business model that is so key, such a key part of both the public leveraged loan market and the private credit market. And the real worry here is not necessarily just defaults. Default rates still aren't projected to be that high, but it's really about the recovery rate. If these businesses go south, they're very light, asset-light businesses. There's nothing to sell, there's no factory, there's just kind of lines of old code and a client subscription line. So there really is very little to be gained from a recovery if these companies do truly go south.
I guess, Bruce, does it make a difference then of being a big fund versus a small fund? Because presumably if something defaults and you're like an Ares, you have a restructuring team, maybe you can try to work with the business to try to get value out. What happens to more mid-market fund that doesn't have any of those resources, that all of a sudden is handed the keys and is like, we're just in the business of loaning to companies, not owning them?
No, I think that's a fair point. We have seen some consolidation in the private credit market, predating the current unease, that actually the bigger firms are starting to squeeze out some of the smaller competitors. That's certainly been a phenomenon that we've seen here, and fundraising has continued apace for the big kind of marquee firms, while some of the smaller ones are struggling to keep kind of investors on board and continue to raise funds. And obviously, when there is such investor concern as there is at the moment about both kind of credit quality and about the ease in which investors can get their cash back, there tends to be a bit of a flight to safety, and obviously the bigger names are likely to be beneficiaries of that.
Bruce, can I ask you about something else I've been thinking a lot about with this whole concern around private credit? One of the big defenses, this is something Mark Lipschultz, others have said to me, that are like, look, if you're worried about private credit, then you should also be worried about the leveraged loan market. If private credit's doing poorly, then equity should be doing really poorly, and private equity should be doing really poorly. Bruce, I wonder what to make of that defense when one of the arguments for these private assets was that they were less correlated, was that there was an illiquidity premium. Does the fact that they're behaving a lot like the leveraged loan market, or even that their defense is like, we're doing just as well as these other asset classes, suggest that maybe there is more correlation there? Maybe the illiquidity premium's not as great as we thought?
I mean, I think that's a very interesting point. Apollo's Jim Zelter, speaking in Australia the other day, made a similar point. Though it is a rather strange one. It's sort of like saying, well, if you sprained your ankle, but, what about the leg that's falling off? It's a rather odd way of looking at it. Clearly, if there are issues in private credit, then, and the credit is senior to the equity, then you would expect to find private equity there, and it does somewhat undermine that argument that it is a less correlated asset. And I think that is an area that is worth looking at. Private equity firms, as we've seen, are struggling of late, and I think that these question marks in private credit obviously then feed upstream to serious questions about private equity firms as well.
Bruce, really appreciate your time today. That's Bloomberg's Bruce Douglas. Coming up, Envestnet's Dana D'Auria on whether investors are underestimating the cost of the Iran war. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg Open Interest.
Tune in to Bloomberg Business Week Daily.
We got to talk crypto.
From the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead.
What's the conversation around your company?
Bringing you insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex economy.
Planning very big things.
A new level of premium.
Plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens.
The floodgates of innovation are going to open up.
You can't fake passion. You either are or you aren't.
Bloomberg Business Week Daily, only on Bloomberg.
Right. We are 6 minutes away from the opening bell. What kind of day are we going to have today, people? I am eager to see. Oh, hey, Caroline Levitt. What does this woman have to say? Ooh, is this just a recording from earlier? Yeah, I think it was. Right. What are they talking about over on old Newsmax?
Just that. However, Republicans have blocked all of them.
It was quite remarkable to hear that setup. I know both of you were with us. We played the clips of TSA, Coast Guard, cybersecurity officials talking about we are currently at risk. We are in danger. TSA, hundreds have quit. Some agents are sleeping in their cars. The testimony did not move the dial yesterday. Luke, were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. It seems as if this is going to go on longer than anybody anticipated, much like the first total government shutdown a few months ago. And it's a little concerning with Bill Cassidy's remarks that you played at the beginning of the segment. It's also interesting to see how the Democrats have moved the goalpost, where they said we just want X, Y, and Z. And then if Republicans came and met those requirements, then the Democrats say that it's not enough. So it almost feels as if the left is leading Republicans down this rabbit hole and playing them, trying to think that the messaging of the shutdown is positive for their base. And on the other side, you know, the Democrats are saying we have standalone bills to fund TSA and these other departments, but Republicans aren't meeting them. So I like to look at scenarios and kind of try to play meteorologist and predict where it's going to wind up. I'm not sure at this point, especially after we had a protracted major shutdown just a few months ago. So it's anybody's guess where it leads. My concern is what's the caveat or what's the thing that makes everyone come to the table and actually sort out a deal. And my fear is that it's some threat to the homeland or some event that happens in the United States, and that's not a place we want to get to.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the like.
Yesterday to talk about what it would do to, you know, what it's going to take time-wise to replace and train more than 480 officers.
I really appreciate
the job at TSA.
You dropping a like, whoever you were.
You know,
I see everything.
And then to hear the cybersecurity officials say we're at risk right now. It was so eye-opening to me. Meanwhile, Delta Airlines, you know, suspending VIP services for lawmakers. We talked about this in the last shutdown. Do we start pulling services and even pay to lawmakers to get their attention?
Yes.
You know, Jenny Beth, let me get your thoughts on that, and then we close out.
I don't need to hear your thoughts on it. I agree. Yes. Suspend their pay. As soon as you do, everything would work itself out magically. How much you want to bet? But that will never happen. They vote for themselves to have pay raises, for Christ's sake. All right. I'm not going to CNN. I am staying with Bloomberg because they tend to be on top of it. We are 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes and change away from the market bell. I just saw a flash of red. I'm going to switch this from pre-market change to the last hour. This will change as soon as we drop in on the bell. Come on, baby. We're going to go back over to Newsmax and just listen.
Are very different and very strange. He explains why, and in just a bit, he will be meeting with his cabinet for the 11th time this term. We'll have that live coming up here on N2. More news now, right after this.
Yep, commercial.
We have repeatedly introduced the Paycheck Fairness Act to fix the loopholes and to deal with the disparities. But as the Speaker pointed out, we continue to introduce it. It puts teeth into the 1963 bill, and we will continue to do that until that we have it. I've introduced it every Congress since 1997. 4 times it passed on this side of the Capitol. 4 times it has died in the Senate. That tells you something about the institution. But we're not going to give up this fight. At the end of the day, is a very, very simple premise. Men and women in the same job deserve the same pay.
You know what? If women deserved extra pay, which I kind of feel like, you know, generally speaking, they should, then why aren't more women being hired? Since they're so cheap, why aren't more women being hired? Tone-deaf bitch. I can't stand that bitch. I can't stand that woman. That blue-haired old hag.
On this Thursday, you're watching Bloomberg Open Interest.
Boom.
I'm Danny Berger. Matt Miller has left me on my own.
The bell is open.
S&P futures, NASDAQ futures, all of those are lower. Concerns that it's a deja vu. We're heading into the weekend. Not yet. We do have 2 trading days to go. But with escalation threats coming from the president saying Iran needs to get serious, an Axios report about sending more troops for one final push in Iran before the end of the war. Russell 2000 futures, those were actually trading at a 2-week high, but now they're off more than 1%. So at the opening bells, something a little bit unusual, something you don't see every day. It is a takeover from both the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ of a company called IR Impact. Apparently they used to be IR Magazine, so they're a bit of a trade publication. They're giving out awards for investor relations. I'm sure we have a lot of IR professionals watching the show, so congrats to you out there if you've won an award. I have to say, I think the NASDAQ has it better because the NASDAQ, I believe, has the CEO, whereas the New York Stock Exchange just has their head of content. I might have mixed that up, I'm going to be honest. But one of them, they split and conquered. I don't know how you decide who goes to who. Okay, let's go to your pre-market movers so you can stop hearing me rambling on about IR Impact. Jefferies now up more than 1%. There had been some concerns about them before that they were seeing credit impacts. They were seeing losses from MFS, from First Brand, some other things in there too. However, they did notch their best investment banking quarter ever. So now shares are starting to reflect that. The memory chip stocks, those are having a bad day after having a bad day yesterday, down 4.6% for SanDisk. Micron falls nearly 4% in the pre-market. Google announcing yesterday that it has a new technology that can power AI at just a fraction of computing power currently needed, though I have to say a lot of analysts pouring cold water on that, saying it's...
I do believe I caught something the other day in the news that I'm not hearing much about anywhere. Supposedly, NVIDIA announced that they have finally birthed AGI. What is AGI? Artificial General Intelligence, which has been the goal. I'm looking for that story. Yeah, actually, there it is, I think. Oh, yeah. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang says he thinks we've achieved AGI a day ago. I'm going to pull that video up because I do believe it would be a worthwhile thing to cover. Let's see.
Spots in your supply chain? Stop settling for surface level visibility. Start understanding the impact.
Let's check this out.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang stated during a recent podcast appearance that he believes artificial general intelligence, AI designed to equal or exceed human intelligence, has already been accomplished. Huang suggested that this advance could lead to AI fully managing and operating companies. Huang stated on computer scientist Lex Friedman's podcast that he believes artificial general intelligence, also called AGI, has already been achieved. When Friedman asked how long it would take to reach the AGI benchmark, Huang responded, quote, "I think it's now. I think we've achieved AGI."
You think?
Huang's comment appeared to concern the larger AI industry, not specifically NVIDIA, the world's most valuable company propelled by the surge in AI usage among consumers and businesses alike. Friedman asked if a company could be operated by AGI, to which Huang said, possible, noting OpenClaw, an open-source AI agent platform designed to run autonomously on behalf of a user. OpenClaw is in the process of being acquired by OpenAI. Huang later noted, quote, "A lot of people use it for a couple of months and it kind of dies away," end quote, saying the odds of AI agents, quote, "building NVIDIA is 0%. High-level AGI is expected to be able to do things like run organizations or make strategic decisions usually left to humans, with critics raising concerns over the benchmark's possible harms to public health, human jobs, and more. The loose definition around AGI has made it difficult to pin down a trustworthy timeline for its creation and widespread use. Last month, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman commented to Forbes that, quote, "We basically have built AGI as..."
Hold on. There's a characterization I guarantee you've never heard. Now we're calling them human jobs. Wow, that's pretty crazy. It used to just be jobs. Now we've got human jobs versus, AI that's going to take over certain jobs for sure. We already know this is coming.
Made it difficult to pin down a trustworthy timeline for its creation and widespread use. Last month, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman commented to Forbes that, quote, "We basically have built AGI, or very close to it." He later clarified that his statement was not meant to be taken literally, adding that achieving AGI would require, quote, "a lot of medium-sized breakthroughs," end quote, rather than one singular large one. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella gave Forbes a different take, saying the industry is not anywhere close to AGI, and that, quote, "we have a good process in place. It's not about Sam or me declaring it." For more on this story, check out the article.
Yeah, very interesting. So yeah, they haven't necessarily achieved it. He thinks we've achieved it. Well, that means that doesn't mean that we have. So my bad for mischaracterizing that, what I heard. But to be fair, that news, when it popped up, it's stated, NVIDIA claims that we have reached AGI. That would be a big deal. That's like that's like a Terminator moment. You know what I mean? Skycom is online. What interesting times we live in, huh? What do you think AI is going to end up doing for us, or not for us? What do you think about that? I'm conflicted. I think it would be a good thing in many ways, and obviously it'd be a bad thing in many ways. So, do those goods outweigh those bads? Well, that's not for me to say, because I don't know everything about AI.
The Saudis, who would right next to Yemen, would come down and by us. We've held the Saudis back from going into Yemen and doing what they thought they should do militarily. So obviously, if we take the gloves off and let the Arabs, especially Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and others who have
we got a lot of red today,
military forces that we've trained,
a lot of red,
they could be a force multiplier. So I think I do believe President Trump is trying to give the Iranians one last, hey, I'm warning you. Yeah. I'm not bluffing. I'm going to give you one last chance here to get your act together.
Yeah, it did seem kind of like the final last window of opportunity, having covered this president now for 2 terms here. There is reporting. I want to get you to comment on this morning. Sure. Iran laying traps and moving additional. Let's take a look at this. I think we have some pre-production from our control room. CNN Politics reporting this, that they're laying additional traps, moving additional personnel and air defense to Karg Island in preparation for a possible U.S. operation there. Obviously, that hasn't been confirmed by our government, but
yeah, they're repeating the same things. That tells me there's nothing really in the news yet. Nothing new going on. I see silver futures are kind of maintaining up here. I've been seeing a lot of talk in various metals groups on social media about how something big is about to happen, and everybody's saying that about everything lately. Gold looking sideways. Oil still climbing, baby. Get in on you some futures. Get you some futures. Yeah, see that short signal right there? If it were me trading, I would ignore that. You could have made a whole $1. Shut up. But yeah, it needs to break through this, which I do believe it will eventually. I mean, that's a pretty strong trend right there for Brent oil. The nano crude oil. These are the ones that I trade when I trade with oil futures. This is the one I go with, just because it's cheaper. It pretty much follows Brent. But WTI is a fair indicator of oil. This one also is pretty cheap, but I don't think you can buy futures on this. You could play longs, or you could buy calls. Look at that. That was just, what, 2 weeks ago? Private earnings and revenue. Ah, they pay a dividend, do they? That's nice. Well, they are screaming upwards, aren't they? All right, the dollar looking pretty strong. It's looking relatively the same as it has all week. The market is literally just waiting on some action. We're waiting on some catalysts, and they are coming. We don't know which way it's going to go, but they are coming. Iran is publicly mocking Donald Trump, releasing Lego videos and all kinds of propaganda. Some of them are pretty funny, but it's propaganda. They are trying to sway the minds of people. They are capitalizing on a lot of the media buzzwords. And then they have the audacity to call Trump a pedo. Really? You Islamic pieces of human garbage have something to say about children? Sit your ass down. Yeah, I will not apologize at all. Islam. Nvidia taking a little tumble. Why don't we take a look at all these here stocks? We got a lot of red in the market today. Microsoft up less than 0.5%. ExxonMobil less than 0.5%. Let's see what some of our biggest movers are. And this is just a change in volume. Oh, that's price. 5 million%. I've learned to disregard some of these crazy moves. We'll take it down a notch. We'll just go down to some of the more reasonable plays. Crisp Momentum up 250%. Hadini Gold. These must be a mining company. Look at 13 cents up 200%. Let's take a look. Is this something I wouldn't mind buying? No trades. Jesus. That is a ridiculous chart. Yeah, never mind. I mean, this is one of those charts that... Are they new? Last update March 20th. Let's see how long they've been around. I know I could go look it up elsewhere. But each candle is a year. Okay, 2005, they've been around a while. They finally popped up last year, and this year's not looking so good. Might be able to get in on a short term something. Long term, they're not really screaming anything good at me. Let's go back to where we were, baby. I'm just scanning through here for companies that look like they might be a good investment, even though these are up a lot. And you typically don't want to jump in after they've gone up, but some of these that have gone up 100% could later go up like these. So I like to look at the biggest wieners and the biggest losers. Petroleum, Nano Magic, Next Generation Management. Probably like a financial, probably just some sort of venture capitalist firm or something like that. Pharmaceuticals, tech, therapeutics, financial group, China Solar and Clean Energy Solutions, A. Citrine Global Corp. What? Citrine is a mineral, but As far as I know, it's not a mineral that's very much in demand, I think. Citrines, like you can buy rock. You can go to like a rock shop where you buy quartz crystals and things like that, and you can buy a block of citrine. Is that related at all to this company? Oh, nope. Health. They are in healthcare. A plant-based wellness and pharma solutions company which focuses on developing plant-based solutions from nature to improve people's health and quality of life. Yeah, you know what? We've done that, guys. We've done the holistic medicine. Do you know what aspirin is? Modern pharmaceuticals are an improvement upon these natural therapies that these people think they're being progressive on. Should you try and lean away from, the chemicals that go into your body? Sure, absolutely. But let's understand what you're actually doing. People just hear like holistic medicine and natural remedies, and they just automatically think it's better. It's not. It's in some ways it is better on your body and your brain, of course. But modern medicine is modern medicine for a reason. I heard somebody make an excellent argument, and I'm trying to remember the words that he said that he used, but I'm fumbling the shit out of it. Anyway, Blue Star Opportunities. There is a lot of green in the market if you know where to look. A lot of these companies here are 40 and 50% up. Joshua Gold Resources, I love exploring and finding new companies and just to see what they're up to, what they're all about. What are they all about? That's a sub-penny stock. A little over a quarter of a penny. They're under a short signal, yet they're up 40%, huh? Very interesting. Average volume 1 million, and the volume's only at 1,000. Wow. Their market cap is less than $1 million. Wow. This might be a decent play. Engages in the exploration of mineral resource properties. Its properties include Kinty Gold Property, Carson Property, Rollo, Chewett, and C1 Mortimer. The company was founded, blah, 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 blah. It was founded on July 10th, 2009, and is headquartered in Woodstock, Canada. This looks like an interesting play. They are down like hell. And this chart is just wacky. Don't we check out the hourly? Jesus. It's a disgusting looking chart. Looks like they've been up over a penny before, man. Once you get down into these sub pennies, it's really generally not a good thing. It's not a good look. They've been around since 2009. All right. Let's make each candle. Let's go 6 months. Whew. Ouch. Yeah, and they're up 40%. Yeah, I don't think that's much to be said. Since 2009, you've been slowly bleeding at a high of 40 cents per share. Now, less than 1/3 of a cent per share. Total value of the company, less than $1 million. Well, I will say this. If you've got any substantial amount of money, you can move this market. I mean, $10,000 would get you a fair percentage of the company. $60,000 would get you 10%. 10% of the company. Wow. 6,000 would be 1%. That's pretty wild. You could move this market of this stock. All you'd have to do. No, I can't explain that one. I would definitely get in trouble for explaining how to run a scam, which is not my intent. But yeah, I've got a video, a short out there about like stock tips people that you pay, or that you like these email groups or text message services that they're supposed to text you with stock picks. Yeah, what they're doing. They basically accept an amount of shares from a company in exchange for boosting them and putting them out there in the news, and then they turn around and tell everybody on their list, hey, go buy this company. It's going to run. When it's that list of people that make it run, as soon as the bell opens, that's what these companies do. They wait and give you these stock picks 5 minutes or so before the opening bell, so you don't have time to research them. And it's usually like, penny stocks. And they'll say, it's going to run, get in now, quick, hurry, go, bye. And then all these dumbasses go in there and they all dump into it. Stock runs up. And that guy that gave the notification already has a bunch of shares, got them in exchange for telling y'all to go buy it. And y'all gave him your money. And then what happens? Before the first hour of the market, boom, it gets trashed. And the guy who gave you those stock picks runs off with your money. That's how a lot of those stock picks things, tip people, that's how a lot of them work. That being said, that's a great opportunity to go and to approach this company and be like, hey, I represent however many people's on your list. In exchange for blah, 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 we'll do blah, 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 circulate your name out there and generate you some profit. It's not hard to do that. It's not hard at all. And that is straight up manipulation. That shit should be illegal. Problem is, you can't prove it. They stay so disconnected. Anyway. Blockchain Inc. up 27%. Petrogas, Capstone, Battalion Oil up 24%. Very good. When we get down into the lower percentages, you start getting into more and more companies that you're going to recognize. Blockchain Loyalty. Pineapple Express Cannabis Company up 21%, eh? Why? There's been nothing in the news on weed. Pineapple Express Cannabis Company. That's hilarious. You know, this is why, well, I'll tell you why I believe Democrats are going to lose the midterms. I do believe they're going to lose. Well, what makes you say that? Well, I mean, when's the last policy issue you've heard about coming from the left? Anything. Give me one policy you've heard them talking about that wasn't Trump bad. That's all they've got. That's all they're running on. And what did Trump do when he was still campaigning for president? What did he do? He went after these small percentages. You know, elections are won by the margins. They're won by capturing small individual groups here and there that amount to a large amount of people in the end. And that's exactly what Trump did. He went after crypto people. He went after people for the marijuana, said they were going to reclassify it. He went after several marginal groups of people. And that's why he won. Taking Democrats' talking points and their what they would normally campaign on. That being said, I ask you again, when's the last policy you've heard mentioned by any Democrat anywhere at all that's not just, we got to get Trump out of office? That's not policy. Where's your policy? What do these people have? What are they going to run on? What are they going to do? Why should you be elected? Not a damn one of them has anything lately. And it's because of that reason I do believe You're not going to get this blue wave, the midterms, unless they start running on something that people care about. And I'm sorry, Trump bad's not good enough. You know, love him or hate him. I'm not saying, you can love or hate Trump all you want. I don't care. But that's not a campaigning topic. That's not, I mean, it's definitely going to sway a small group of people. But, again, elections are won in the margins. So you've got that small amount of people, Democrats. You've got the small amount of people. It might be a large amount of people, but you got that group is what I'm saying. Okay? What else? What other policies do you have? I'm not seeing anything at all. Somebody name a policy. Come on. Anybody. You. Name a policy. I would love to be wrong about this, but I'm not. Give me one policy that any Democrat is running on. They will lose the midterms. Or not. If all they're going to run on is Trump bad, and they do win, well, then that'll tell you that the nation, by and large, is sick of Trump shit. That'll be the litmus test. So I encourage everyone to pay attention and see. American sentiments are so brittle. They're so wishy-washy. People care about the most retarded shit. And it shows by the people they elect. Now I'm just ranting.
That reduced it to only 50 years old. 50 years old, you're not a senior citizen.
Right.
And to 20 years. And again, couple that young age with a status of the prison saying you still have a risk of reoffending.
Bitcoin.
Why are you letting these guys out? It's absolutely outrageous.
Silver futures.
Shocking. And you know what I have to say?
Silver futures. What did I tell you? It's coming up a little bit. The dollar must be coming down. Yeah. Brent crude coming down. Nano crude. Looks like they broke that little trend line. Or that it's leveling off. Okay. That being said, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch any oil at the moment. Too many things in the news. Not enough things in the news. There's too many things not in the news is what I meant. Nvidia staying right down here in the trenches. And we are, just barely 30 minutes into the market opening. Which are the most critical moments. Most people do their trading within the first 30 minutes to an hour of market opening. And then they get out. Which is pretty intelligent. Depending on your strategy, of course. Looks like Bitcoin's down about 3% in the last 24 hours. Not a damn thing has really moved very much in the last hour. All the big players in the market are down, just about. Looks like today is the day of the small guy. That's what it's looking like. Everything else is looking pretty flat. Flat. Let's see. See how the volume's doing. There's a lot of volume. Relative volume. It's not much money. Well, yeah. The lighter the blue, the more volume there currently is for the day, I think. Well, it's relative volume. Now, the higher or the darker the color, the less volatile. Percentage gap. Well, guys, I do believe that's me. I've had fun. I hope somebody made some money today. I certainly didn't.